Come see us on tour in Cohoes, New York, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.
All right, here's the headline from Amnesty International. Syria coastal massacres of Alawite civilians must be investigated as war crimes. Government-affiliated militias deliberately killed civilians from Alawite minority. And this is a reference to this wave of massacres that Syria has seen for several weeks now, where militias under the control of the new government have carried out massacres, slaughtered thousands of people, most of them from the Alawite minority. And this is exactly the outcome that those of us who criticized and opposed the dirty war in Syria were warning about for so long, because the insurgency that was being empowered by the CIA and its partners was dominated by sectarian death squads like Al-Qaeda, which now rules over the country. It's an Al-Qaeda offshoot that now rules over Syria. And so it's no surprise that massacres like this have been happening.
But Aaron, isn't it is ironic here that the Amnesty International, let's say, investigators in the past decade, they have been acting like activists on social media platforms in favor of the insurgency. And they have been so vocal about their support of this quote unquote revolution. And every time we try to argue that, yes, there is political authoritarianism in Syria, but who is fighting this against the Assad regime? Those are sectarian death squads. And if the regime is gone and the central government collapses, then there are incidences in the region, in Iraq, in Somalia, in Sudan, and in Libya that we can build on to predict that similar outcome will happen in Syria. But they rejected this premise and they said this is an Assadist talking point until it happened.
There are certainly some people from Amnesty International who've held that view and who've attacked me for warning about exactly this outcome we're seeing now. But, you know, Amnesty has occasionally done reports, even during the dirty war, on the atrocities. So I don't want to paint Amnesty with too broad of a brush. But let's focus on the crime at hand. Kevork, I mean, these were wholesale massacres of innocent people slaughtered in their homes by these militias under the control of the government. First of all, summarize for us what happened and what is the latest in terms of, you know, are these continuing and will there be, as Amnesty is calling for now, any accountability?
So the massacres have slowed down in the coastal cities. They are still targeting mainly the Alawites and let's say more individual crimes than organized crime. Because when there was a clash in Latakia, in Jabla, in Tartus against the HTS forces, some of the former Syrian army forces, they have ambushed the HTS forces and they have killed, I think, 16 militants from HTS. And this was the trigger that Jolani has given the orders not only to HTS, but also the Syrian National Army, which is affiliated with Turkey, the Amshad and the Hamzat militias, to go to Latakia and commit these crimes. This was an organized act of genocide because there was the intent of committing the crime of elimination or the killing based on the religious or sectarian identity of the people. They were mass murdering basically every civilian. And this footage that we received from the coastal cities, it was a living proof that the killing was not only the goal, but also enjoying the killing, because they were proudly posting these videos themselves on social media platforms and talking in this video saying that we're here to kill the pigs, we're here to commit genocide against these minorities who stood with Assad. And the media has made this narrative in the past decade. They always said that these coastal cities are somehow a stronghold for the Assad regime. They said that the Alawite sect are entirely affiliated with the Assad family, and this has been also reported on Democracy Now! As you remember, one of the guests was trying to portray the people in the coastal cities as being somehow from the clan of Assad.
Well, Kevork, listen. Let me cut you off there because we have that clip actually, so I want you to respond to it. Now, this is worth pointing out because it just shows how across a very wide media spectrum, not just the corporate media, but even alternative dissident media that does a great job covering topics like Palestine, as Democracy Now! Does. I think it deserves awards for the way it covers Palestine. But on Syria, unfortunately, for maybe reasons we can talk about or try to speculate, they repeat outright sectarian propaganda. So this is an example. This is before the massacres happened. Democracy Now! Brought on a BBC news journalist. Again, the BBC is owned by the UK government, which was integral to the dirty war in Syria. and who basically incited sectarian violence against Alawites. This is some of what she said.
That, calling for these protests, it had a different agenda behind, because the Alawite community are worried about prosecution. Most of the Alawite community are, supportive of President Assad or former President Assad, and they had contributed or been part of the crackdown, the brutal crackdown on the Syrians, arrest, torture, imprison, and killing. So they will be prosecuted, and that's why they are, out and about trying to put pressure so there will be a general amnesty on the Alawite community. This is something that is impossible to happen, because the families of those who died in prison, the families of those who were bombed and, tortured to death or disappeared, they need justice. They need answers about what happened to their family members, and there is no way for peace and stability to happen in Syria without a prosecution, without a legal system that will hold those who have blood on their hands accountable for the sake of reconciliation in the country.
I wanted to ask you.
So what she's saying there
about the.
So what she's saying there, basically, if I understand her correctly, is that. Basically, Alawites in Syria wanted a general amnesty because they don't want to be held accountable for their crimes, which basically all of them are complicit in, because they were tied to the former government. And she says that they were all mostly supporters of the foreign government. And then there's more. Then she also says essentially that Alawites are basically a tool of foreign powers, including Iran.
But I have to say the most feared one among people here is Iran and its affiliated militia, whether in Iraq or in Lebanon from Hezbollah or the Shiite militias in Iraq. They're worried about them interfering in the society, causing disruption and causing instability, especially that many of the Alawites and the Shia in Syria have always been affiliated to foreign powers like in Iran, and they are worried that this is going to continue.
Lena Sandrawi, thank you.
Of course, there's no follow-up there. So basically, she's saying most of the Alawites in Syria are affiliated with Iran. And then this is exactly that kind of rhetoric was then used to go and slaughter so many Alawites not too long after this comment was made. So that's an example of sectarian incitement appearing even in like alternative media in the U.S. So Kevork, your comment on
Aaron, of course, I was disgusted when I watched and listened to her, but I wasn't shocked at all. First things first, we have to be very honest with this assessment, because this is a clear incitement of collective punishment against an entire religious domination and sect in Syria. And this is completely untrue, because first of all, the richest people in Syria were not from the Alawite sect, they were from the Sunni sect. The bourgeoisie class was the Sunni sect. Most of the ministers, the defense minister, the head of the intelligence, the vice president, the wife of Assad, etc., they were all from the Sunni families. Assad's economic lifeline, the survival, was based on the Sunni families. To extent that the Assad the father and Assad the son, they have deliberately kept the coastal cities impoverished, and they didn't build their factories and a big economy for them, so that they would be dependent on the government, on the regime. So this is completely untrue that the Alawites were somehow benefactors of the former regime, or they have been affiliated to or with the Assad family. Secondly, when they say the Alawite sect historically were affiliated with Iran, this is completely taking the Alawites out of the mosaic of the Syrian society. So what she's basically saying, the Alawites are aliens to the Syrian society, and they're not a natural and integral and organic part of the Syrian community. So she's really playing an evil game here against a very, I would say, progressive, very peaceful sect in Islam, which protects human rights, which protects women's rights, which is very tolerant, and there is an intermarriage between the Alawites and other sects. And these people are peasants, they are farmers, they are poor people, including this man that we could watch the video later. These people are living below $1 per day on average, to secure food for their family, and then they go on a free spree of killing against entire families and taking out men, first humiliating them, then killing in summary executions. But this is all because, of course, media is complicit, but also the ideologies. What's the ideology, Aaron, of Al-Qaeda, and where is it coming from? It's coming from Wahhabism. And where is the Wahhabism is coming from? 800 years ago, we had Ibn Taymiyyah giving fatwas to kill the Alawites and the Shiites, and Jolani is basing his actions on hundreds of years old fatwas, which are today the core of ISIS and Al-Qaeda in order to wage this genocidal war against the minorities. So whether he abandoned or he said, I'm no longer Al-Qaeda or not, that is completely irrelevant, because you can take a man out of Al-Qaeda, but you cannot take Al-Qaeda out of a man. And the living proof for that is Jolani in Damascus.
Well, let's hear from a victim of the sectarian violence. This is an Alawite man. Now, we haven't verified this video. People have to judge for themselves if they think it's authentic. I think it is personally. It's impossible to verify from being halfway across the world. And this is his testimony. We're not gonna play the whole thing because it's graphic, it's very tragic. But let's hear some of what he says, and I'm going to translate. So tell us how your son was killed in the March 7th massacre. A group of about 10 people arrived. They stormed in with force and brutality. They banged on the door. I asked them what they wanted. They asked who was inside. I replied, my family and I. Then, my family and I, they ordered me to come outside. A group of 3 to 4 men surrounded me, while another group entered the house. The group saw my family members inside. As soon as they noticed my sons, they struck them, kicked them with their legs and guns, insulted them with curses. They forced them to lie down here. They sentenced my eldest son to slaughter, continued kicking them with legs and with guns. They dragged them from here to the road. A group came to my youngest son. I told him he fell down 2 days ago, and this one, my youngest, has leukemia. They shouted at me to go inside and shut the door. I was attacked by 3 or 4 of them. I entered, they took them away. While on the road, God sent a group of them to my youngest. They asked, where are you taking him? He's a kid. This other group brought him back to me. Here is your son. There's also my second son. We will bring him back if there's nothing in his record. I told him we are the poorest family in the village. We mind our own business. I can see that. Continue, please. He's told. Around 4 o'clock, they called for my son Suleiman mobile phone. Who is this? I am his father. We have his mobile. What about my son? We do not know. They hung up, called again after a while. Did you know where your son is? No, we did not know. No. We sent your son to Hafez al-Assad, and that's the name of the Syrian, late Syrian. That's the name of the longtime ruler of Syria, Bashar al-Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad. And then he goes on to describe how basically he had to go recover his son's mutilated body from the street. It's very graphic, so we're not going to get to that part. So
they took out his heart.
Yeah.
And there is a historical incident behind this. They are repeating historical incidents from the early Islamic history. And this was after the death of Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. He was Prophet Muhammad's uncle and the revered martyr in the Battle of Uhud. And there was someone called Hind bint Utayba who was on the opposing side in Quraysh of Mecca. She reportedly mutilated his body in revenge for her father and other relatives. She took out the heart and eaten the heart and the liver. So this is a historical incident that they're trying to copy now in the 21st century. That's why I say this is I really don't have words to describe it. This is complete barbarity, and this man has been confirmed by his story has been confirmed by several sources in Syria, and this man is heartbroken. He and many thousands others. I've seen a video of an old woman, 71-year-old, walking in the street where they killed 3 of her sons, and they're stepping over the bodies of her sons. And she asked them, "Why did you kill them?" And they step over the bodies and they say, "We killed your pigs." And so this is not only about killing. Like, there is this complete psychopathic barbarism that these people are committing against just normal people, because somebody opened his eyes and found himself in an Alawite sect. I mean, how many people in this world has chosen it's his own religion or sect? Everybody is born in a religion and then they continue the way it is. and these people are judging you in what family and what sect and religion you're born in. Therefore, when we say these Islamist takfirists cannot build a state because their entire ideology is based on destruction. They can destroy an entire country and they can take over the power, but they cannot build the nation state. Therefore, when I become a pessimist about the Syrian case, as a Syrian myself first, and second, as someone who has been analyzing the Syrian conflict, it's quite clear that with this type of mentality, you cannot build a state, and especially a state for all Syrians. And this means sooner or later, every group in the country, the Alawites will say, we cannot live with this type of barbarity. The Druze will say, we can accept Israel to protect us if this is the fate we will face if HTS comes to us. And the same goes with the Kurds. And I think this was the plan all along. They wanted for someone like Jolani to come to power because he will create the security conditions in the country which would vertically divide the country on ethnic and sectarian basis, and everyone will say, enough, I'm no longer a Syrian, I'm an Alawite, I'm a Shia, I'm a Sunni, I'm a Kurd, etc. So they kill the national identity, they find vertical lines and divisions in the country in preparation for the Balkanization, and this is part of the Yenon plan of Israel for a long time. This is the plan to divide and conquest over the region, to establish the greater Israel project, which stretches between the Nile to the Euphrates.
And for, an American or someone living in the West watching this who might wonder, well, what does this have to do with us? Well, we paid for all this. The U.S. and their allies spent billions of dollars arming this insurgency that they knew was dominated by al-Qaeda. Jake Sullivan, when he was an aide to Hillary Clinton, he went on to become Biden's national security advisor. He wrote in 2012 to Hillary Clinton, al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. And this is what our side now is currently doing to the people of Syria.
Kurt was on Joe Rogan's show, just for your respected audience, the other day. He was wearing a T-shirt written Operation Timber Sycamore.
Oh,
this
yeah, Kurt
Metzger
was? Yeah, okay, nice.
Yeah. He was wearing that T-shirt, so that's the name of the CIA operation.
Right, and so listen, Kevork, we're going to wrap. So any final comments for us, how people should be thinking about Syria going forward?
I think the Americans can definitely put pressure on the Trump administration, especially those in the administration who claim to be caring about the Christians and the minorities in the country. If they're willing to divide the country, they can do it without all this bloodshed. And I think the Trump administration up until this moment has turned a blind eye to these massacres in the country, and they can end this with one phone call with Erdogan and with Tamim in Qatar, because if the plan to divide the country, do it without bloodshed. But if you want to build a nation state, at least help Syria to build a nation state. So America as a superpower, of course, it has a responsibility to stop these massacres in Syria, and they can do it if they speak with their allies.
Yeah, I mean, and because I oppose statism, I think the sanctions should be lifted. We don't have the right to impose sanctions no matter what we think about their government, whether that's Assad or now the former leader of al-Qaeda. The Syrian people should not be made to suffer anymore, and those sanctions should be lifted. And of course, they never should have been imposed to begin with. Kevork Almassian, host of Syrian Analysis on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Jimmy Dore Show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Come see us on tour in Cohoes, New York, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, and Toronto. Go to jimmydore.com for the cheapest tickets.